So I thought I'd make another video. Just want to talk about a few things before I forget. I'm almost 42, and the sensation of whatever it is that whatever I thought I wanted, or you know, everybody seeks for success, but I think everyone's success path is what they're willing to do or what they want is different. Some people want it so bad that they're just sporadically jump into the fucking porn industry, not knowing what the hell they want, and tragedy happens, or they're willing to sabotage and kill their own friends, literally sabotage, poison, and fuck them up, and just to make sure they get it. If not that, then they'll take them down. I mean, all kinds of horrible shit. But as far as it goes, I know that was Katy Perry. Katy Perry in my class with Andy Hoppan. And the reason I always know this is because I remember Katy Perry, and I remember it's the only time ever in high school. And it's very easy, especially it would have been even more convenient when you're younger, that anything that you come across somebody that is that successful, especially because she surpassed Michael Jackson in record sales, and in records, a couple of, I want to say more than one world record, for an artist, and she has the biggest amount of followers than I think than any artist. I'm not sure exactly, but I know she's broken several world artist records to ever complete, even surpassing Mariah Carey. And I remember seeing her in class, and I talked about this several times, and I was like, I don't know if that was her or not, because she used to drive that Jetta, and she used to always, when I would walk home, I'd go down the alleys, and I would see her sort of speed racing, and she would see me, and I knew she knew who I was, because she would like stare at me, and she was always seems to be, very fulfilling to the character of who she always seemed to be at that time. The reason I remember so vividly, because I remember when the teacher was doing roll call and she said Katy Perry. And it's the only time ever in class where I was like, wow, that is a beautiful name. If I ever had a daughter or something like that, I would name her like that. That's like a Katy. Like that is a beautiful name. Katy Perry, like the first and last name. And it just rhymed. It synchronized a little bit better than for me, besides her being beautiful, and I remember being very attracted to her, and her just boggle like a looking at me like a baby looks at, like when they see something that's very astonishing and like absorbing information, like her piercing eyes and just looking and like sort of just analyzing. And I don't think I've ever shared this before. I remember, and I talked about, she was wearing a polka dot dress, and I was waiting to go into. I was waiting. I was going to get her number because Andy Hophan had said something to me when I was walking down the hall, and he goes, "Oh, you're in that girl with her?" And he goes, "Oh, hey, what's up, man?" And he had told me that she was a good singer. Andy Hoppan, he's no longer alive. But he played on my basketball team, and he was the biggest rival. And to my understanding, she had he told me, and he was the one that told me that he goes, yeah, she transferred over to R.L. Turner, and then I want to say she transferred to Turner for like a short period of time, or transferred to another school. I know she transferred to another school eventually. But I remember, okay, so in the world that I lived when I was younger, race was always an issue. She had black hair. I had black hair. But she was very light complected. Obviously the piercing colored eyes that she has. Now, in the world that I live in, you already know the white girls. Because I knew, I think she didn't naturally grow black hair. She colored her black hair. I think I kind of think she did. So that is immediately one of the reasons that I knew there was an opportunity there. And I engaged to whatever situation, right? You play this foreplay, you try to engage to see how different spectrums of the table, right? To build a climax. So I know I'm very young at this time, and I'm 17, 16 years old. I don't think I'm 17 yet. Could have been 17. I think it was late 16. I was 16 years old. Could have been just turned 17. And I recall, so I knew immediately the fact that she had black hair. That was she was a white girl, but she had black hair, so she was an opportunity. And I knew that she likes black hair. See, when a white girl, blonde hair, light complected, or just a blonde, tan, California looking girl, right? Those types of girls, that what kind of class they're in. So that they were like the rich kind of preppy people. They won't want to engage. You already know you're either Mexican scum, or you're considered as because when you went to lunch, all the kids were segregated. Like most of them, all the blacks were on one side. Then you had a few tables that were mixed, but you always saw the white preppy people. All of them, almost every single one of them, they were all on one side of the cafeteria. And we lived in a huge cafeteria. They were always on one side of the cafeteria, only at their table, and you couldn't sit at their table. Because I remember going up to their table and looking at me like trying to sit down. You can't sit here. So that was given. Even though I had white friends, and it was just simply because of the way I looked. Mustache, I was a Mexican. I was like the Mexican hoodlums. Anyway, so, they didn't know I was DJing or anything like that, so I could oppress them or anything, nor did I care, because, I just knew they had a lot of money. They were always nice clothes, and they had this sort of preppy, always groomed, perfectly fine, didn't look like they had much problems, moms and dads, in their life, and they lived in a 2-story house. All of them did, or a nice bricked home. But I knew immediately, and I remember thinking this very, very vividly when I was in class. I know that if she colors her hair black hair, that's my ethnicity, natural color hair. You're choosing a natural ethnicity color that isn't your own. So I know she likes. I know there was an opportunity interest. And I remember, and I want to say I glanced at her, and I looked at her hair, and then looked at her, and I knew, but she was a white girl, and I knew she liked black hair. Why are you coloring? And she always did. So, I recall, I talked about her when she came into class. She was as very direct and active as she is on stage, and I still don't know the details of her living in that situation, music videos or anything like that, because most of all them on that side of the hill, all of them were racist as fuck. And there were white boys that came into the picture when I was around Daniel and so on, and they were like pushing me out of the picture immediately, without a doubt. I mean, there was like, we're going to keep it white and keep it controlled. We know he wants the white girls. You immediately know that even when they don't say anything. So anyway, but I'm in class, and on about the third day. So I look at her, right, and and I'm like, oh wow, checking out who's the prettiest girl here. So I'm almost kind of like to the center of the class, and she's on the kind of the side corner. But she can view she can view the entire classroom, and I'm facing the classroom. She can view the entire class. And I remember, because the way that I knew is I had to trigger the ability for her to be able to want to engage and show interest. So if I don't show very interest and petty to talk to her very quickly, then it makes me look like a dweeb nerd. But I restrain, and so I'm just engaging and sort of have this confidence, like I have this importance. Women pick that up very quickly, even when you're 16 years old, 15. They pick up your sort of presence of feeling importance, especially women. And I knew this, and this at time it was because I was DJing, right? So, and I had gone to a few raves, but I was a DJ and at that time. And I recall that, I recall her me being in class, and the teacher caught me eyeballing each other. And I knew, like that, what teachers will do when they see something like that and they don't want this student to get with this student is they separate them in different classrooms, or they separate them and put them in different tables. But if they know immediately, if the girl's just not just looking at you like, oh, you just kind of maybe, or no, she was looking at me like froze, like you could just tell she was, because she was the prettiest girl in a classroom where there wasn't really any pretty girls at all in there, like not even medium pretty. She was like drop dead gorgeous. I remember her just bolting into her work very, very quick. She was brilliant. She immediately just observed she looked brilliant. Like I said from the beginning, looking at her, she was going to be successful at anything in her life, without a doubt. I knew anything she graced, she was going to be phenomenally successful. And so she came in, had a polka dot dress, right? And I knew she was doing this because, to me, it was like toward the end, like the second or the last period of the day. It was either third period or fourth period, but it's like the second to last class, or the last class I had for the day before class was over. And I want to say, I think it was the last class I had that was over, because from there, then I leave the school. I mean, I had to go, probation check, and then I had to go meet up with some friends, and it was just a very habit of doing this sort of routine. And so, I immediately knew her interest, and the teacher caught this. And I knew something had happened where the teacher, I couldn't remember what exactly had happened, but the teacher can request for students to be transferred from in and out of classrooms for many different fucking reasons. Okay, many different reasons. They find out ways to do this. And I remember looking, as knew the teacher had just caught this whole, like, oh no, he may fuck a white girl, and he's going to get that pretty white girl that's really looks very pretty, very talented, and I got to help prevent that. And teachers are very good at that. They know. And she was a female teacher, and I don't know if she was a transgender, could have, but I think she was a full, I think she was an old white woman, like a 50s white woman. And I recall her looking at, and when I sort of observe, I have to be careful how I turn to the left or the right, but I can make a quick glance whether it's an approval, whether this person wants an approval, not that I'm seeking approval from this person, but rather this person is going to cause problems. If this person is going to cause problems for me to Katy Perry, right? So I could tell by just a few glances I look, this teacher wasn't going to like that at all. She has to keep it white. She goes with her whites, and then, the preppy, blonde hair white kid with a nice car, and then they make babies and he fucks her. But that's a potential opportunity first, okay? That's how it was when I was growing up. So I couldn't remember, but I want to say that it was the teacher that either got me out of the class after about a couple of weeks, because it was like, I was there in that class for maybe 2-3 weeks at most. And I didn't see her there every time. There were a couple of days that she had skipped class or didn't show up. But it was like a class I had, I think, like 2 or 3 days out of the week. So anyway, I remember, the day before that I was going to say something to her or whatever, try to get her number, she was gone. She literally just gone, split, and never saw her again. But it was the teacher that I remember did not give an approval. I remember that very vividly. I want to say I was in the class maybe no more than 7 times, 5 to 7 times total. And a couple of those times I was in classes she wasn't even there. So the reason I say this is because I'm trying to remember exactly, because I knew that that was the period. Like when I'm going to all these classes, I knew which one is going to give me an opportunity. All kids know this. You know, you can't wait till you get your health class. You can't wait till you get your science class, because that's where you get some maybe friends you could talk to. You feel comfortable, or you can chill, or there's a girl you want to talk to and you've already communicated with her. You just kind of have to prep up and kind of wait for that period. So that was a class I knew that was always waiting for me for an opportunity. So I was always looking forward toward it, but I was the teacher. So I remember the teacher like trying to engage in some sort of activity that was to cause some sort of separation and division, like stay away from her. But when she was like just fiercely staring at me, when no everyone else is in the room, you could tell how everyone else in the fucking room, like, oh, he's gonna get the white girl, he's gonna get the pretty girl, and all the other girls and the other students recognize it, because most of the kids that were in there, I think there wasn't really any white kids in there, maybe one or two other, and it was a total of maybe 20 students, I would say. And the tables weren't desks, there were long tables that you sat at, and you could tell a number of people could feel the vibe and could sense, oh no, there's an opportunity between them two, and he's not stalling. Hector's not over here stalling like some of the other situations. And they knew this, and you could tell, because when you're around a bunch of Mexican people and you see this sort of pretty white girl show up like that, a lot of the people want that because it's an upgrade to your life, as opposed to being a downgrade, just getting with a Mexican girl and, sort of that, because it's sort of elevated, and you usually don't talk to them unless you're just kind of wanting to be super just a super friendly person. So there's a certain type of communication that doesn't really engage interest, so sexually. But when there was a solid look, there was without a doubt, it was the teacher knew she was interested, and that was a huge problem. The teacher did something, I can't remember what it was, and when I was showing up to the class after Katy had Perry done that, she showed some sort of frustration or aggression. I don't want you to have that. You're not going to get that. Like, you need to choose something else better. They don't just let things play the way that they want. Remember, because you have to guide your cattle to what color skin and what good life you're supposed to have, or what they want you to have. So, anyway, I showed up to class, and there was a couple of opportunities. It was like the second or third day, and I was sort of revving up this whole idea, like, okay, I'm going to approach her, I'm going to say something. And she did pass by me, almost kind of like she was waiting for me, but she was kind of in a hurry. But I always knew that when a girl passes by like that, it's an opportunity. She's not doing that on fake. When she simply walks by, even when the exact time you're walking by down the hall, even if she doesn't make eye contact, she knows you're there. She's doing that for a reason, to give you an opportunity. And then it's up to you to make that opportunity. If you're not quick, then she quickly moves on and goes about her business, because she gets that attention all the time, and many guys don't approach her. But there was just a very quick one or two times that happened. Other than that, I'd be sitting in class waiting to get up, and waiting to see, okay, so what am I going to say? And this is all crammed up into 5 different sessions, 5 to 7 different times that I was in this class. But I very distinctly remember being put out of that class, not because of a bad behavior. The class was very calm, and the class was very mellow. It wasn't disruptive students in that particular type of class, and it was toward the end of the day. But I want to say she could have gone to Creekview as well. I know, because I remember Andy Hoppin is the one who told me, but as far as it goes with her living over that side of the hill, if that's where she lived, which the Jetta and all this situation, because I heard her interview talking about, the Jetta that she had, and I was like, that's her. Because I remember very distinctively, I was like, wow, that is such a beautiful name. I was like, I've never heard such a beautiful name ever. I've never been in any classroom. I've never been to any fucking probation meetings. When I heard that name, I said, that is a beautiful name. Katy Perry. Wow, that's so beautiful name. So anyway, uh, you know, the whole thing start going through my head right quick. Oh, Mrs. Paloma, what would she look like? Katy Paloma. How you doing, Miss Paloma? Like if I had married, had kids. So this kind of things runs through my mind very quickly. All kinds of scattering shit, right? But anyway, I remember her, you know, sort of, it kind of looked like she was puzzled in the idea that aren't you supposed to be intimidated by me and you're not, you know? And, you know, she knew there was something that was sort of holding me up. Something that said, I have a higher value than you think I have, greater than you. And so that's why this whole DJ world and me, you know, doing the whole DJ thing at that time, not only you had to have a lot of money to do it, there wasn't very many people that understood that world. So whatever music and guitar and singing you're doing, you're always under my table. Always under my table. Because even if you can sing, that's all I'm doing. A DJ, you know, the scratching, there's so many things. You have a lot of facets to a lot of situations. When you play guitar or singer, you sort of incubate it into a very kind of small situation, especially when you're young and during that era of time. It's a very different world. But I knew, you know, the MCs, the DJ, you know, the vocals that I always mess with, the different instrumental. Singers don't understand a lot of the different beats and a lot of the different type of rhythmical beats and whatnot, and very large libraries of variations of that than a DJ does, because they're singers. That's what they do. You just give them one or two beats and they know how to do their vocal stuff. So, but I thought I'd make a video on that. You know, whatever it is that ever happened over with all those people, I don't know how many were house sitting and all this other shit. She had, to my knowledge, she had nothing to do with it. And I know that she didn't, without a doubt. There was no doubt in my mind. I remember very distinctively. She was, when I saw her and I was in the classroom, she knew, and she was more independent to say, well, you know, I don't care what this teacher says. Fuck the teacher, you know. But there was no doubt in my mind that teacher wanted that separation, without a doubt. And she was trying to put a sort of intimidation on me, because when you do that to a 16-year-old, 17-year-old, they're even more or less likely to engage. And that's what women understand. They understand that when that happens, bingo, you didn't get that. But it's a poison. It's a tactic that they do. So anyway, I thought I'd say something about this to kind of give the whole situation about everything that's kind of going on with that. But yeah, you know, I hear her music and stuff like that, and you know, has 300 million followers or some shit, like the 200 million followers. She's the biggest artist singer. She surpassed Mariah Carey in many records. Surpassed Michael Jackson. She passed Michael Jackson in one of the world records. You know, and like I said, it's whatever was connected and whatever was all those rich houses that were over there. It caused a lot of shit, you know, because whatever those people had and what those people were going through, they were after the money, and they were after to say, because there was so much racism, and I knew she wasn't, because I remember looking at her and the way that try to break racial barriers when you come across situations like that. I knew that is not your natural hair color. You're chasing my natural hair color, not yours. So you're painting something on your hair that's natural, and you're doing that because that's what you like. And I remember very distinctly looking at her and looking at her hair and looking at her. And then so let her measure me up, because I had, you know, black hair. So I thought I would say something about that, because I knew that was an invitation. Immediately, to me, that's an open invitation, because she's she's open to that idea. White blonde girls, not very likely. You won't. It's just you already know by the way they're dressed. Whether some are willing to engage and talk, but it's a little bit different, especially when you're just looking at them. You wait for an eye contact. You wait for sort of this approval of interest. And this is sort of, kiddie pool. You're very young, 15, 16, 17 years old, even possibly early 18. But when you're in high school in that type of environment, the engagement of building up attraction toward a female and building and how to make approaches, all that is very different than when you become an adult, because you're very virginated when you're 16 years old. You are very pure. 15, 16, 17, you're very pure. But anyway, I thought I'd make a video to talk about that, and that'll be all, But some people become successful, and you have an opportunity, and you miss out and don't say the right thing. Not to say where you don't even know where it would have led to, but I remember that very distinctively. The teacher did not like her. The fact that she was like, you knew immediately she was interested. Katy was open door, because she stopped doing what she was doing. She was just sitting there with her pen like this and just looking at me like a baby. You ever seen like a baby looking in total astonished about like something that's very interesting about you, about like a world of wonder that really wasn't expected, like just looking and sizing up and sort of gathering this information, but not like hatred or despise. It wasn't any of that. It was just looking like, and sort of like very, very strong eye connect. So I knew that I could trigger that. And at that time, I was watching people die in nursing homes. I had a lot of experience going to nursing homes, and had already been to a few raves, and I was looking at that very specific time. At that very specific time, I remember when I was looking by that time, because I had already had about a year experience in DJing. I was looking for a companion to be successful with. I was immediately looking for someone to be successful. I was hoping to find someone that could sing, and someone that could sing, or someone that played a very talented, some sort of other musical instrument that could help elevate my musical ability at that time, because I'm very young. And I knew I had a year, and I was like, maybe I could, find somebody that could be a singer or something like that. And it was weird because she showed up. So anyway, I thought I'd make a video on that. I'm 42 years in a couple of days, so the one that got away, huh?